Notice like in ISIS or Al-Qaeda or like the Muslim extremists, they're all from like collapsed, pathetic societies dominated by colonial powers. They've been degraded, and that's why they're so angry.
That was a clip of Tucker Carlson claiming that American and Western involvement in the world is what has created extremism. I made a full video about the problems with that worldview a few months back, so I won't relitigate that here. But what happens when that worldview stops coming from a grifter on a podcast and gets brought into the White House? Lucky for us, we just found out. J.D. Vance, as part of the MOU signed with Iran, agreed to a temporary lifting of sanctions that had been in place for over 30 years. On Monday, the Treasury Department issued a 60-day waiver of Iranian oil sanctions. Iran can now trade oil using American dollars. They can sell on American markets. If made permanent, this will generate over $60 billion for Iran over the next year. We'll get to how this connects to Tucker's worldview in a moment, but first, we need to talk more about the sanction relief. It came after a supposedly productive meeting that J.D. Vance had with Iran in Switzerland last weekend. According to Vance, Iran agreed to open the Strait of Hormuz and allow IAEA inspectors into the country to monitor their nuclear production. Of course, Iran then closed the strait over the weekend and claimed that they never agreed to the inspections. But hey, JD wants a deal, so he can say whatever he wants. At least, we think that JD wants a deal. What worries me is that this deal isn't just reversing new sanctions. It lifts sanctions that have been in place since Clinton. Clinton made them, Bush kept them, Obama kept them, Trump 1 kept them, Biden kept them. And now, all of a sudden, after Iran strung us along for months before the war and has been a bad faith negotiator for months after the ceasefire, JD agrees to lift those sanctions. I want to be clear here. The responsibility ultimately lies with Trump for signing this deal. But he sent JD as his lead negotiator, and JD is seemingly willing to say anything in order to make this deal sound good to the American public and even to Trump himself. Here he is telling us that any money Iran receives will be spent on American products.
Jared Kushner actually came up with a very interesting solution with the Qataris, where basically, again, if there is any frozen Iranian assets that are unfrozen, then we have approval over that process. The Qataris have approval over that process. And then the money would actually go to buy American soy, American corn, and American wheat for the benefit of the Iranian people.
Now, that could be great. Trump seems to believe it. He's repeated that line to reporters. But the problem is the MOU doesn't say that. Instead, it says the funds can be used for any final beneficiary of payment determined by the Central Bank of the Islamic Republic of Iran, meaning Iran gets to do whatever they want with that money. And even if the money were going to America, we should remember one thing. Money is fungible. J.D. Vance used to know this. After October 7th, Vance tweeted that money is fungible, that our tax dollars have allowed Iran to continue its terror regime. The fungibility of money means that every dollar we give, every dollar we unfreeze, even if earmarked for American grain, frees up another dollar for their terror networks. J.D. Vance knows this, but he continues to tell the president and the American public that the deal he signed is perfect. And it obviously is not a good deal. You may have wanted to end the war. You may reasonably believe that it was either boots on the ground regime change or a negotiated deal. That doesn't negate the fact that the MOU we came to is terrible. But JD seems to think it's a great deal. Why? Well, I'm afraid the best explanation is that JD agrees with Tucker Carlson. He agrees that American power worldwide actually makes the world more dangerous. He agrees with Tucker that the world would be safer if we just let Iran build a nuclear weapon. Now, I can't say that for certain. JD would absolutely never say something like that. But I can say that if Tucker were in charge of these negotiations, the lifting of these sanctions would fall perfectly in line with his worldview. These sanctions, as I said, have been in place since Clinton. They froze Iran out of American markets and barred them from trading with the American dollar, which freezes them out of much of the global economy. Lifting them before Iran has agreed to do anything signals that you believe it's precisely those sanctions that made Iran hate us. The logic would be this. If we let Iran access the world economy, if we treat them like a normal country, then maybe they'll finally act like one. But that is backwards. As Trump has said, if they act like a normal country, then we will treat them like a normal country. But the burden should be on Iran to prove it first. What J.D. Vance is doing is taking the view that they aren't a normal country because we haven't treated them normally. If we were just nice to them, maybe they'll finally be nice to us. Maybe they'll stop funding terrorists, stop chanting death to America, and stop trying to wipe out the Jews. That strategy is nothing more than a prayer to the wind. We know what happens when we capitulate to terrorists. Israel has willingly given up more land than any nation on earth in attempts to appease the terrorists. And what has that gotten them? Nothing more than monthly trips to bomb shelters and endless war. In Libya, the Obama administration worked with Abu Sofyan bin Kumu, a known al-Qaeda member previously detained at Gitmo, to overthrow Gaddafi. Then bin Kumu turned around and was involved in Benghazi. Capitulating to terrorists doesn't work. The only thing that works is making it impossible for them to continue. That's what the sanctions were designed to do. It's what the war itself was designed to do. The sanctions made it tougher on Iran. The war was close to making it impossible for them to continue. But JD undid all of it. And it wasn't by accident. You don't accidentally dismantle 30 years of bipartisan sanctions. You don't look at a regime that funds Hezbollah and chants death to America and think, you know what? Maybe if we are nice to them, they'll stop. Not unless you believe, on some level, that the problem was us all along. That's what Tucker Carlson believes, and now the vice president has just made that American foreign policy. Subscribe and like the video for more from me. I'm building a channel based on honest, reasonable takes and not the performative outrage you get from so many online these days. If that's the analysis you want, subscribe and head to my Substack to get new releases emailed directly to you. With that, I'll see you next time. Thank you.